talking of subscription services, leading it back nicely to gaming, and also just generally media and pretty much anything you can, even food you can subscribe to nowadays with things like HelloFresh and Gusto and other subscription services are available. Things they're all over the place. They're pretty much mainstream now. But do you feel like, and we've probably already touched on this, do they exclude society or some people within society from, maybe, I don't know if they're all beneficial, but they're pretty much the way most things are nowadays? Do you feel like some people are being left out of that loop?
I haven't been. Sorry, go on, Matt.
No, I've spoken enough. Go ahead.
Well, I've spoken quite a lot. Of what I think, so. I have a bit of a bee in my bonnet about this because we very, very soon we will have to our now we haven't had that the properties I sort of either side of us do, but we haven't, because we're set off the main road and therefore we were slightly too far from the exchange to benefit from it. So about 6 months ago we got a line of sight internet connection, which has been excellent up until the last few days actually, and that's been really good. What that allowed us to do was to ditch Sky, which we were paying, I think, £70 a month for 2 viewers, because I share my home with my mother, and so we were paying between us £70 a month for Sky plus a £10 a month support fee. And now, because we have an online subscription and we're streaming everything, we now pay £10 a month for access to basically the same service. So I think that there is a big issue in this country around access to the internet, which allows you to have these subscription services, because in some cases subscription services are actually cheaper and a better way of accessing things. So you can pay your £10 a month to PS to PlayStation, and you can get access to like their full back catalogue, so that's clearly a lot cheaper. If you've got a house full of kids, that's a lot cheaper than having to buy 3 or 4 games a month on at 70 quid a pop. So if you live in the countryside, then basically you're going to have to swing for that. You're not going to have the internet connection that allows that. So I think there's that. The other thing that I think about subscription systems is that they are geared towards people with a lot of time, and they're not. You can't. I would like, as doesn't, which I'm always banging on about on here, but I would like a sort of something you can dip in and dip out of. So I don't want to have to pay the whole thing, but I also don't not play 4 games a month. So the saving isn't the same for me as it might be for somebody who's kind of got the time to play. So I think that some systems, well, I mean, there's other issues, isn't there, about the idea of it basically hooking you in, and the addictive aspect of it, the fact that once you've signed up to the system, and then if you leave, you lose all your games and all the progress that you've made, and there's a whole heap of stuff that sort of locks you in and handcuffs you to the system. meanwhile, they're slowly increasing the price. You get it as a good deal, Black Friday or whatever, and then slowly by the next paying 3 times the amount. So yeah, I think they do have a lot of problems, and I think that as it seems that that's the way everything is moving, there are a lot of things that I think they could think about. We could do a whole show on that. I reckon.
could. Yeah. Yeah. Matt, did you want to say?
Yeah, the reminding about again the appalling tragedy of Labour under Jeremy Corbyn being annihilated. Because say for argument's sake that he is the most monstrous anti-Semite ever, get rid of him. I was never particularly bothered by him. He's not particularly remarkable, but his policies. One of his policies was free high-speed internet for the entire country, because everything is on the internet now, and going forward it is only going to get more. But when you pay for that through taxes, you're not paying it. The companies, the internet companies themselves are not in control. It's the government that negotiates with it on our behalf. So we'll get a good rate, and then they'll think about the jobs in terms of the physical infrastructure of setting up internet. So like are you having to have a trench dug? Was that Caroline?
What was that? Sorry?
They tend to dig trenches when they install fibre everywhere, don't they? Having trenches dug and things like that.
Yes. No, yeah, we've had to have trenches dug, yeah. And a new post put in and everything. We haven't had to pay for that though. BT Openreach paid for that. So
that's
interesting.
Good. Yeah.
So that is positive. That is positive. Yeah. Nevertheless, that would be maybe they do that for everyone, and I'm completely wrong about all of it. I don't know enough about it, but yeah. So yeah, subscriptions are good because they give you access to a lot of things.
They do.
For a one lump amount. But there is the element of they are potential monopolies, and they hoover up all the content that exists. Steam, for example, is basically a monopoly because like 90% of all PC games go through Steam. Interestingly, I think Microsoft was trying to merge with Activision.
I think you're right.
And it's actually been stopped by an international court because of it taking too much of the market.
Yeah, I'd read that, and then I think now they've dropped it or something, and it might still be happening. But Sony was obviously against it because they don't want the competition. I'll have to look more into that. Maybe we could do an episode on that as well. But yeah, I think the trouble with my subscriptions is they're great, but I tend to forget and I get complacent. I'm just like, forget how many I've got and then how much money I'm actually spending out over the course of a year. And I'm like, do I actually need these? I have to sit down and seriously think about like the time to cost ratio and whether I am actually have enough time. Like you say, Jem, do you have enough time to be able to kind of get your money back on all of these different subscriptions that you have? But yeah, it's definitely the way things are going now. And I mean, even PlayStation Now, the streaming service that they offer, where you just stream a game straight from like the cloud or wherever, like basically the internet. You'd need good internet for that, for sure, for it to be worth the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure, I can't remember what the Xbox system is, but Games Pass, isn't that by you subscribing you just get the entire catalogue of Xbox games, I think. Yeah, and a lot of people say it's better value. But yeah, an interesting one.
Only if you have an Xbox.
Exactly, yeah. Although, does it link with a PC as well, or is it not? Because it's Microsoft, or I don't know. But anyway, that's one for the Xbox fans to answer, I'm sure. Yes.
You just reminded me of I think when you asked just before you asked the last question, talking about so Jem mentioned the compassion towards each other in society, and we've got food banks and Scope offering support. I feel like the infrastructure for giving economic support to other people has evolved a lot. And so, for example, food banks, having that website to do that is brilliant. That literally, food banks shouldn't have to exist, but because they do, you've got a site that makes sure that your people are giving them the right stuff. People who care are going to make sure that they're giving stuff like that. YouTube and Twitch, you can gift subscriptions to people, so you can and everyone can have a Patreon or a PayPal account, or it's never been easier to transfer stuff to people between us. So it's not like established traditional pathways of it's having to be someone you know. You can be watching something on Twitch and just go, oh, I've got some extra money, I'll sign up to give a gift sub to someone, and then that's someone who doesn't have to pay for it. And then that's socialism. It's people with plenty of stuff giving a tiny portion of it to help other people. And fortunately, because there are the vast majority, I hope, people are people who just want to just get on with life and just enjoy their lives and not be like Brian and need to be shitting down on other people. There are plenty of people who are filling these food banks with food and giving these subs. It's making the best that they can with what they're able to do under this system. So if the food banks are empty, that'd be a sign of because they're not. Yeah, there are lots of good people, and fortunately, those people will continue to do good as much as they're able to. So, that is an optimistic thing.
We've talked a little bit about, like, I guess, social hierarchy within society. And I wondered if there was like a gaming hierarchy. And I had a thought actually while we were talking. You've said how only people that have the time to game actually game, but what about mobile games? Because pretty much most people, when I say most privileged people, have access to a smartphone, and that's one of the easiest and cheapest ways to game. And we've had episodes in the past about mobile gaming as well, being like one of the most popular forms of gaming, but I myself don't really game on my mobile very much. So I wondered if there was like a hierarchy within the gaming world amongst gamers about whether if you play certain types of games, you're considered higher or lower down the hierarchy, as it were.
Yeah, I think there definitely is, and I think we've talked about it before, haven't we? About how you know, the difference between casual gaming and proper gaming. But yeah, I mean, I think that I think that in a lot of ways, mobile gaming is probably the future. I think that it's as you say, extremely accessible, and I know that mobile ownership is smartphone ownership is on the rise all around the world, and it's, you know, you're far more likely to have access to a phone in sub-Saharan Africa than you are in to have access to a computer, a gaming computer. So the sorts of games and mobile gaming, but not just necessarily just mobiles, because there's now these things you can get with the controllers, so you can actually turn your phone into a Switch type.
I think I saw it just today. I think PlayStation have launched something that attaches like either side of your phone and kind of makes it look like a Vita, but with a mobile phone in the middle.
Yeah.
And I think they launched it today, and I had no idea it was happening. So yeah, it's definitely moving that way.
Absolutely.
It's kind of redundant.
Do you reckon?
Yeah. So you can play PS Remote Play on your phone.
Yeah.
And as long as you've got good enough internet, then you can just Bluetooth your PS4 controller to your phone. And as long as you've got good enough internet, which if you're in London, which has 5G, you can just go and sit in the middle of London playing your PlayStation that's on at home with an actual controller, rather than that weird handheld weird thing.
I don't know. Maybe it's more transportable. I don't know. I've not had time to look, but the verdict there from GTS is official. It's a waste of money. Don't buy. Yeah. And then I guess when we think about, we've mentioned casual gamers and proper gamers, amongst the quote unquote proper gamers, do you feel like, as we live in a social media age with the internet all around us, that there's a lot of pressure to just buy those games immediately and spend a lot of money straight away to be playing the latest games as soon as they're out? And especially like with streaming culture as well, you want to be ahead of the curve. And is that really, is that really okay? Is there a lot of FOMO, a fear of missing out, within the gaming world, and pressure to spend those unacceptable amounts of money on games fresh off the chip? I don't know what you call it, off the chips. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is, because of all the reasons that Matt's given about this capitalist society that we live in. So yeah, I mean, there's a huge amount of pressure, and also there's excitement, when a new game comes out. People who are have finished all the games, and they're excited. They want the new thing. I mean, when I was playing World of Warcraft, when a update came out, there was a massive rush to go and get it and be the first on and be the first guild to go through. And I know that, like, we would pre-order the update so that we had it on the day that it launched, and then you'd have to spend 3 days waiting for the downloads and the updates, and then you'd queue for hours to get in because everyone was trying to log in. But there was a lot of kudos to doing it. Now, what I didn't get, I understood it, but I don't identify with it, is this idea that then you have to like race through all the content, preferably within 3 days, and be the first to kind of go, I've done it all. Because then I'm like, well, now you've got to sit around for like 8 months waiting for the So I do, there's a lot of pressure like that over the new Zelda game, really strongly. I haven't finished the last Zelda game. I was like, I don't need to spend 70 quid to play a game that everyone says is great and it's better than the last one, but they also said the last one is really brilliant. So, why don't I just go back and finish the last one? So I think there is an element that we do have to, like all the stuff that you've been saying today, Matt, about the sort of evils of the system and capitalism and the ruling classes and all of this. They do exist, and they exert a huge amount of pressure and influence on our worlds, but we don't have to play the game their way all the time. We can push back against it, and I think there is an element of that can come into play, when the games come out, is just, okay, so shut down your your social media. Don't look at it. You know, if I'm watching a TV series and I'm not up to date on it, I just make sure I don't look at that stuff. And you know, I think we have to take a little bit of control ourselves, and that might dampen it a little bit.
Yeah. It's hard, but you do have to take a step back and say, right, well, I'm just a bit more patient and I'm careful on social media and avoid spoilers because there's an awful lot of those around. And as gamers, we too tend to enjoy gaming content, whether we're playing games or watching games. But yeah, I think it's just about taking a step back, being patient, waiting and being careful with the types of media you consume. That's easier said than done, trust me. But yeah, I think we can all cut ourselves a bit more slack in that regard because there's an awful lot of pressure from all facets of society raining down on us. In some places more than others. I think again, it kind of all feeds into what we talk about a lot on the pod, which is intersectionality. So, and of course, we can be feeling an awful lot of pressure because of who we are and how we present ourselves and how that's reflected within society. And I think the world could do with being a lot less pressurized and stigmatized. And I'm not sure that's the right phrase, but yeah, we just all need to chill out a little bit and be kind to one another and yeah, look after one another a little bit more. I've said my piece, I shall step away now. I'll turn my mic off. There we go.
I think I've got a good follow-up because this is something that
Please do.
I have softened a lot when it comes to most pressures that I have placed on myself or had placed on me for the majority of my life, because it drives you insane if to try and live up to and achieve whatever these pressures may be. And because of, you can trace probably 99% of pressures that we experience to either patriarchy or capitalism or both. Yeah, patriarchy, capitalism, or both. Can you guys still see me?
Yeah, you're just slightly frozen. You're all good.
Okay.
You're moving again.
I'll keep on talking if you can hear me. So
yeah.
Patriarchy, capitalism, and those are manufactured to get us to do things that benefit those systems. So I think it's the best thing for everyone in life in general to do is to look at the pressures that they face and look at, okay, what are the pressures that I actually must do? Which is, unfortunately, you have to work to make enough money to eat, to drink, to live. Those things you must do. What you mustn't do is shave your armpits. That's something that nobody needs to do ever, anywhere. But women face just that thing is something that the entire of society just sits on women and goes, this is the line in the sand. Everything else going on in your life, but you must do this as well. Doesn't matter who you are. That kind of pressure and it's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah.
To extricate yourself from these pressures. And again, there are pressures that it's a lot easier for a man to relieve themselves of these pressures because it doesn't cost. There is far less risk associated with it. Whereas if a woman doesn't shave their armpits and just goes about their job like with a sleeveless shirt on, that will impact the way people see them. And I just think the best thing for everyone to do is just sit back and look at the pressures they feel and face, and allow themselves to just let go of some of them. And again, that is so much easier said than done, but it's finding that the mildness. And then when you get rid of those things, it gives you space to actually organically grow out and actually feel what you feel, rather than what everyone has to do, which is press it down. And it's especially for women have the mercy of the trade-off between men and women in patriarchy. Women are supposed to be emotional. Their emotions are part of what a woman is supposed to be, whereas men are supposed to crush down their emotions. And that's what kills men. It absolutely annihilates men from the inside, and is the reason why suicide is one of the highest causes of death for men, because of that horrifying pressure that the patriarchy exists, presses down on people. So the best thing anyone can do, I think, is just take a look at those pressures and free themselves. I just want everyone to be able to relax and just enjoy their lives. That's all I want. It's not too much to ask.
Well said, Matt. Yes, that is the dream for all of us, definitely. Before I wrap up, is there anything anyone else wants to add on this topic?
Well, I just wanted to point out that Matt was saying about giving everyone free internet, and it is fair to say that it actually offered to do that back in the 80s, and our bestest friend Thatcher and her government decided that it wouldn't be okay, because they actually had fibre. They actually had fibre in 1979, and they wanted to start rolling it out. And Thatcher didn't want BT to do it, because then it would mean that they would have a monopoly. And she didn't think that it was acceptable for this organisation to have a monopoly on a technology that other people didn't have other companies didn't have access to. And yet now, who owns all of the phone lines and installs all of the internet is BT. They own our network. So it didn't stop that from happening. And it put us back decades. If we'd had that then, you know, I mean, that's what they did in Scandinavia. They just installed it, and you know, yeah. So I just wanted to flag that little story up. Important, to know that that was a scenario where big business actually were like, we really want to do this. Now I'm sure it was because they saw, you know, the potential for owning that, but yeah, it's not always a good thing to not have a monopoly.
And it's the problem, that's again coming to the problem of the ruling class, people who believe that their function is to rule the peasants, rather than it being the peasants, the people choosing the best people amongst themselves and electing them to be the leaders. The ruling class, they go to private schools where they mix with the other ruling class, where they are taught that you are kings and princes and oligarchs and corporate leaders. You should be in charge. And that's where Thatcher comes up and goes, I'm part of the ruling class. It's my job to decide what this means and what this means. And just, it always ends up catastrophically. Just look at the world. This is the result of the ruling class believing that they are gods and destined to rule over us. And it ends up, we have to pay the price, whereas their lives stay completely the same. And so, fuck that shit. God, I want to learn about the last 40-50 years of British history, just because I want to know what's happened and what's been going on, so I can get a broader understanding of where we are now. But I heard her one recording of speech of her where she goes, "I am the Iron Lady," and I just want to fucking just smash everything in the nearby vicinity. So I know enough to just go, fuck Thatcher. Yeah. Yeah, that's
there we
enough.
are then.
Fuck Thatcher.
Yeah. We'll leave it on that note, I think. We have been gaming the system. We're very excited to announce that in September, the 9th and 10th, or possibly one or more, or both of those days, we will be attending the Cardiff Anime and Gaming Convention. And we'll be having a panel and chatting to anyone who so chooses to attend. So if you are interested, please do have a Google and search that out. And we'd love to see you and have you ask us some questions and all that sort of stuff. So please do check that out if you're interested. You can also donate to our Patreon link or have a look at our Patreon. It's over in that corner. Yes. And feel free to tell everyone about this podcast if you'd like them to know a little bit more about it. If you're feeling the pinch during this time when it comes to gaming and just indeed anything else in life and you want to chat about it, leave a comment, let us know, and give us lovely reviews if you can as well. So with that all said, I'm going to bid you all good night, good evening, adieu. Thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you again soon. All right, bye.